In order to maximize the learning outcomes of teaching at school, it is crucial to enrich learning activities in and outside the classroom. Flipped classroom allows lectures to be delivered before classroom as pre-class learning material to free up lecture time and prepare students beforehand for more active learning activities in classroom. A flipped classroom is known to have positive influence on cognitive domain, including promoting higher order thinking and reducing cognitive load, as well as affective domain that include improved attitudes, engagement, and motivation. There are several forms of pre-class learning materials. They include videos, audios, and Web 2.0, such as Google Forms, and of course, videos are the most common form. However, watching videos as pre-class learning can be passive, and it requires more mental effort than attending live lectures, and therefore it can be distracting. It can also be confusing and frustrating, especially when learning new concepts because there is no immediate feedback from teachers. In this presentation, I'm going to present virtual spaces as pre-class learning material. In virtual spaces, students can be more active and self-directed. They can be engaged in learning more. They can have better mental images of what they're learning, and they can learn more abstract concepts in authentic contexts. And that is thanks to the affordances of virtual spaces. According to Warburton, they include rich interactions, visualization, and contextualization, exposing students to authentic content and culture, great immersion, and realistic simulation. Therefore, virtual spaces has been used as learning medium in collaborative learning, exploration-based learning, task-based learning, and experiential learning. Therefore, I hypothesized that virtual spaces can yield better learning outcomes in flipped classroom setting than other forms of media, such as videos, because of their affordances. And the goal of the current project is to test the feasibility of virtual spaces as pre-class learning material and observe how students use and how they think about virtual spaces. The course investigated in this study was an introductory life science course given to the first-year undergraduate student in my faculty. It had 40 lessons on Google Meet. It was live online lecture with 2 exams at the 7th and the 14th of lessons. And 8 of them used virtual spaces for pre-class learning. In pre-class learning, student visited a virtual space and read Google Slides and worked on assignments on Google Forms. And in class learning, students attend a lecture and worked on try this exercise and a revision exercise, which was mainly composed of multiple choice questions. Virtual spaces used in this study were on Mozilla Hubs, and they were mostly accessed via PC by students. And each virtual space divided into 3 areas by topics, and each area contained a video, images, 3D models, and text instructions. Now let me explain try this, an interactive exercise in a virtual space. In this exercise, students did either labeling, which is to label a structure in a 3D model, such as peptide bond here, or pairing, where students match something with the other, such as an enzyme and a suitable substrate for this enzyme, or discovery, where students walk around a virtual space and find something in there using the clues given to them. Now, the survey. At the end of the course, a post-course questionnaire was sent out, and 90 students submitted their responses. The questionnaire had questions about how many virtual spaces were used for pre-class learning, and how useful were they for pre-class assignments, lectures, and exams, and their willingness to use virtual spaces in the future, and text comments on the positives and negatives of virtual spaces they used and their suggestions for possible improvements. Now, the findings. First, the usage frequency of the virtual spaces. Here, I define high usage as using 6 or more virtual spaces out of 8 in total. And in pre-class learning, 69% of the students used 6 or more virtual spaces, namely the high usage, while in exam preparation, it was only 46%. And the difference of the two was statistically significant in cross-tabulation analysis. And in fact, many students, 25 out of 62, changed from high usage to low usage between pre-class learning and in exam preparation. Second, a perceived overall usefulness of virtual spaces. The rating was quite high in all categories, but it was highest in understanding lectures, followed by pre-class assignments and for exams. And I did the same analysis for try this exercise because I thought this is going to be rated better than the overall usefulness because try this is quite fun and more game-like. However, I was wrong. Comparison with overall usefulness did not yield statistically significant differences. Now, student comments on the positives and negatives of virtual spaces. For positives, I got like 3D, understanding, can do, move things, and look. For negatives, I got manipulations, movement, assignments, and required time. So from these, I can see that observation and interaction in 3D space is important for students to understand content. And for negatives, actually they are related to students' comments on possible improvements. They have manipulations on navigation-related comments. And they seem to suggest that manipulations and navigation can be a big hurdle for students to get into virtual spaces for learning. Now, implications. First, let me summarize how the virtual spaces were used and received in the flipped classroom setting. I want to note that the survey was conducted after a 4-month-long course. That means the novelty effect shouldn't be a big problem. And the use of the virtual spaces was not compulsory because a student could have done all the assignments only by using Google Slides. Still, most of the students used the majority of the virtual spaces for pre-class learning and found them useful, particularly for understanding lectures. However, more interactive try this exercise were not considered significantly more useful than passive media such as videos, images, and 3D models. That means both trying, doing, and looking seems to be equally important for them. Now, let's think about how to make the virtual spaces better learning materials for pre-class learning based on the findings. I think 2 things are important. The first is scaffolding. Learning in virtual spaces for pre-class learning is self-directed and students are learning new things in flipped classroom setting. That means learning objectives, activities, and assignments need to be well aligned, and I don't think I did it particularly well in this department. And spatial and UI design. We need to have better instructions in and outside the virtual spaces and have clearer path plans for visitors. Conclusions and future directions. Virtual spaces are promising alternatives to videos and other learning media for pre-class learning in flipped classroom. Paying attention to scaffolding and spatial and UI design may improve the usefulness. However, I only did a questionnaire for this research, so more in-depth surveys such as interviews and participant observation should be conducted as well in the future. So, thank you very much.